Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Rajiv Pillai and I am the editor of Facilities Management Middle East. Before I took on the role last year of managing the Facilities Management Middle East brand, I did not foresee that I would be part of this new event launch. So yes, I'm proud and honored to welcome you all to the very first Facilities Management Virtual Conference 2020. Being that this is our first FM conference, we were keen to ensure that we debated on the right topic. Technology in FM is something that has always been prevalent in the industry. It is just that now it is more relevant as the current situation has catapulted us into a mindset of adopting technology for the management and maintenance of the existing built environment. I'd like to think that had it not been for the pandemic, we may not have even thought of innovating and executing such a webinar event when clearly technology has made it easy to communicate and become smarter. The same philosophy can be applied to FM and buildings. Buildings need to communicate and become smarter. With that in mind, this conference hopes to discuss the current technological challenges facing the FM market and capture the insight and ideas from various topics that are lined up today. Ideas that will help and serve the FM community to establish better operational practices from here on. We have an array of experienced speakers to tackle these topics. I would like to thank all of them for participating today at this virtual event. I would also like to thank our esteemed sponsors, BFM, Ijada, and ServeU, who have supported us in realizing this event. And last but not the least, I want to thank our moderator of today's event, Sarah Mumtaz. Now, Sarah does not need much introduction. Many of you already know her. With over 20 years of experience, Sarah is a recognized industry expert in the FM, property management, real estate, and asset management field. Sarah held senior executive positions with firms such as Khidma, QBG Facilities Management Group, Abu Dhabi National Hotels, Compass, Tamak Holding, and the Al Farah Group. I would now like to leave this event into the able hands of Sarah. Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum, hello, and a very good afternoon to you all. Welcome to the very first FM Middle East conference, and hopefully the first of many to come. My name is Sarah Mumtaz, and I'm absolutely delighted and honored to be hosting today's event from sunny Abu Dhabi here in the United Arab Emirates. I know we have an international audience tuning in from all over the world, so for those of you who don't know me, a very quick introduction. I started my career in the property development and construction sector and moved into asset management, which led me through to facilities management, which has pretty much been my forte for the past 15 years or so. I've held executive positions for a number of key FM organizations, and most recently have been providing consultancy and advisory services to major GCC organizations. Again, I would like to warmly welcome you all. Whether or not you're from the FM or real estate industry, I'm sure you will thoroughly enjoy today's event. Now, we have a fantastic lineup of panelists today and guests that are going to be joining me. Each session is going to be lasting around about 35 to 40 minutes. We're also going to make sure that it's very interactive so that you can join in and put in your comments, suggestions, and also any questions that you may have for the audience. Each session, like I said, 35 to 40 minutes. We'll have a short interval in between each of those sessions where you can have a little break and maybe go off and grab a quick coffee. So without further ado, let's meet the first round of panelists. And I'm sure that you're all familiar with our expert team today. They need little or no introduction, quite frankly. But before we get into the conversation, please allow me this opportunity to welcome each of my guests for the first topic. So Gary Reeder. He's the general manager of ServeU. He has a background in both contracting as well as in the FM industry, working previously with BK Gulf and MDAD. Overall, Gary has been in the UAE for 12 plus years and has more than 30 years of experience in FM. A very warm welcome, Gary, and thank you for joining us today.
Sarah, thank you very much, and welcome to you both on there at the moment. Nice introduction, and I'll try to live up to everything that you've said, Sarah. Good morning.
I'm sure you will.
The UK, and good afternoon, I think, in the UAE.
Thanks, Gary.
Okay.
Our second panelist today is Mohanad Al-Mahdi. He is the managing director of Moderator FM in Saudi Arabia. He's also got 20 years plus experience in property and the facility management sector. Mohanad is a Bachelor in Science in Architecture and a Master in Science in Engineering Management. He previously worked with the World Bank Group and also with the Al Turkey Group before he was been appointed as a managing director at Moderator Facilities Management in 2016. Hello, Mohanad, and welcome. Thanks very much for joining us today. So our third panelist for today's first session is Abdullah Al-Wahidi, who is a leading facilities management expert in the region. He has over 2 decades of experience in FM and has held a number of high-profile roles, including his last role as CEO of Khidma Facilities Management. Prior to that, he was the Senior Director of Emaar Facilities Management, looking after iconic projects that you all know, such as the Burj Khalifa, the Dubai Mall, and Emaar District Cooling. Abdullah holds a bachelor's degree in electrical engineering and an MBA. And welcome. Good afternoon, Abdullah. Thanks for being with us today.
Thank you, Sarah, for the opportunity. Look forward for the discussion.
Excellent. Thanks very much. Right. So let's get into the very first subject. We spoke about technology. I know it's a hot topic at the moment. So our first panel discussion is, has there been a greater push towards tech against the backdrop of the pandemic? And let's go over to Gary for his thoughts, please.
I think definitely it's a yes and a no for me. 2 reasons the way I'm looking at it. A lot of companies are already working in their, obviously, intelligence solutions, their CAFM systems, ERPs. They're using their BMS, they're using all of their energy management systems, etc. So an integration of that is obviously an advanced step. But I think the first thing first is that the way that everybody has dealt with the pandemic at the moment, I mean by the need to reduce office space, work from home, push everybody into, I suppose it's a common thing now these days, working from Microsoft Teams, working from Zoom. I mean, we do meetings every day, 2-3 times a day. We do evaluations with clients, RFP reviews. I mean, that's the most basic thing. So it's absolutely changed everything. I think what it's done is accelerated things that were already there, the integration, the things that were always pushing. The more automation, the less interaction, the less manpower should be, I think, the way forward. So I think it's definitely accelerated everything that was being done, but it was something that was already in process, just sped it up a little bit, I believe.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I mean, as you mentioned, it's almost as if we've had the resources, they've always been there, the technology's been there, and we've almost been forced to use them because of the situation.
Yeah. I think it is. So I don't think we're doing anything that we haven't done, but I think we were taking baby steps, and I think we've accelerated a lot more, especially with the integration with clever things like IoT and all the AI sort of stuff. So I think that's definitely sped everything up, I think, at the moment.
Absolutely. Great. Thank you very much. Let's bring Abdullah into the conversation. Abdullah, please share your thoughts with us.
Well, as Gary said, technology is being used by, multiple firms today. And as Gary put it, it's just speed up the process of technology adoption in firms, and to continue that kind of communication needed among the different teams across, because especially during the lockdown, people were not able to communicate, like be in the office and things like that, and or have your call center in the office. Having the technology that supports that connectivity and communication enabled FM companies to maneuver during such emergency and be able to provide the services needed without any interruption. And I remember hearing experts talk about using call centers. And even now, if you call airline companies, you'll notice that most of their people are based from working from home, because it's much cheaper, and they can have the resources, especially that many of the resources were out of the country and they could not come back. So instead of hiring new resources and going through the training, using technology enabled multiple firms to continue their operations and be able to deliver the required services.
Yeah, yeah.
No, it's a good point. I mean, you both pretty much touched on the fact that we really utilized the resource that we've currently had. I want to ask Gary. I mean, there's been an immediate need to adopt technology such as the Internet of Things and AI, as you mentioned, in this region. Because of the pandemic. Do you think that it's actually sort of accelerated more because of the pandemic?
I think, yeah, definitely. I mean, that's what I was saying earlier. I think it's encouraged people, or it's motivated people to have to do that. Having less access into premises, into assets, into clients' areas, using this obviously technology, you have an ability to read and see what information's doing. You can see what spikes you're getting. You can see where you're having blockages. You can read all of this through the systems. So instead of the old age time of sending somebody to go and look at something, going backwards and forwards, the ability to be able to look into it and try and identify what the issue is before you get there is something that I think is giving us a benefit at the moment. I think the thing that we've got at the moment, whilst we have all of these separate systems, I think the key to the thing is integrating. So rather than sitting there with certain different screens open telling you this and then going to that one, obviously the skill is making the integration and making the integration worthwhile. Not just lip service, something that actually is working. So and it will reduce the interaction obviously with public and reduce the time, which ultimately will make it more efficient. I mean, most of our clients at the moment, they're all looking for something different. How can we use more technology? How can we reduce the manpower? I mean, ultimately, how can we preserve the asset? And obviously, the key one is reducing the cost. So they all tie in together. But definitely, that's something we have to push forward as obviously expert FMs, especially with all the organisations we're involved with.
Yeah, no, it's a very good point. Thanks, Gary. Abdullah, looking at the GCC and how we compare to other regions, how do you think we've actually fared in adapting this new technology that we're talking about today?
Well, as you know, the FM market in the GCC is still in the development stage compared to the market in Europe, and that also comes to the technology adoption. Although there is a big push from governments here in the GCC for technology adoption and digitization, but still, there are so many barriers towards that, and technology and even the infrastructure is required here in this region to enable FM companies to adopt technologies. But one thing that we should think about, and that's something that Gary touched on, it's the integration and the utilization of the available technologies. And unfortunately, there is a disconnect between FM professionals and technology providers, where you will have a system that has multiple modules that are not being utilized, unfortunately, and you pay a fortune for it. So what needs to happen now, that since that there is a great push towards technology adoption by FM companies, that there should be an improved utilization and understanding, in fact, before even the utilization, a proper understanding of the features and the modules available in these CAFM systems that companies invest in, and then based on that training courses are given so that the end users or the technician who are supposed to be using these technologies can use it and can make the most benefit out of it. So it's integration, and it's also training that is needed to improve the adoption of technology across the region.
100%. And I'm so glad that you've mentioned that, because I mean, from my perspective and what I've seen, I actually think the technology that we have here in the GCC is world class. When you compare it to other parts of the world, I mean, the resources, what we have in terms of the standard of technology is just absolutely second to none. And that goes, I mean, not just within the FM industry, but also things like, smart government systems and solutions that we have at the moment. Yeah. And I agree with you 100%, Abdullah. I think the challenge is really having that culture to train people on how to use it and utilize it to its potential. And that's where I think we're actually suffering in this region. So you've got the technology, you've got the software, you've got the resources, and you just kind of expect people to be able to use it without actually giving them the correct and ongoing training that's required. And which is what I think we need to really heavily invest in.
Could you hear me well?
Yes, we can hear you just fine, and I'm very happy that you're back. So welcome to the discussion. We're basically talking about the main point, which is, has there been a greater push towards tech against the backdrop of the pandemic? So please give us your thoughts, Mohammed.
Well, I second, first of all, thank you, everyone. Listening to, I only captured a brief from Gary's response and more of Abdullah. And Abdullah is exactly correct in terms of we have a developing market in the FM. And in order to jump into technology, you must have a mature market in terms of knowledge and operation. And I speak on Saudi as well, being here. The growth of the FM market has seen significant adaptation to the concept of FM in transferring from operation maintenance into facility management. And that's still taking time, but the government has pushed more workshops through government and semi-government entities during the past 2 to 3 years, and it's still there. So educating the people to facility management is the start into jumping into the technology aspects of things. However, I believe in to get somebody to move into and understand this particular technology, you must give him a core reason for that. Probably in the UK, it's more advanced because of the cost of electricity or general utilities and how you can save on that. Where we are, it's still there, but it hasn't reached that limit where people would definitely want to jump in and must jump into it. So I think it'll take another 2 to 3 years for them. The buildings are there, the smart buildings are there, the systems are there. It's even the people who are learning it are there. But in terms of executing it on the ground, this is where we're still having some time to kind of take off.
Yeah.
But in terms of whether it's beneficial, definitely it's there. Everyone here realizes in the GCC, but it still needs some time to build.
Yeah, and I'm also happy to report we've got a large audience in from Saudi Arabia. So no doubt they're here to tune in and listen to what you've got to say, but also just to kind of sums up the interest of FM and FM professionals. We're very happy to have people from all over the world, and welcome to the guys from Saudi. I want to ask a couple of more questions, but before I do, this is for the audience, for you guys watching at home or in your offices. We have got a public chat box. Feel free to drop the guys a message if you have a question. We're going to we will try to answer them in real time. If there is a question that we haven't covered in the discussion, and I will pose them to each of the panelists. So please feel free to interact with us and give us your thoughts on how things are going. Seeing as you came in a little bit late, Mohammed, I'll just ask you a follow-up to that, if I may. You spoke about it briefly, but if you can tell me a little bit more in terms of the FM firms and the FM managers, particularly in the region and more so in Saudi, in their understanding of how to sort of transition and cascade what you've just described.
It'll take time. As I said, the idea of shifting from operation and maintenance, where you have a majority of companies, local companies operating here, and moving into the FM concept, where it's more of from reactive into proactive, that takes time. Many of the buildings also developed here. Only recently we've seen buildings that would custom into that. Some don't have the right information, the plans, the the engineering works that you can apply the technology into it, where you can really maneuver within the building. That's still also under study. But overall, firms here are, you can count them probably on your both hands. 10, with maybe 10 are core in the FM market, not to exceed. However, operation maintenance are a lot. Facility manager, we've seen a lot of Saudis also coming into the market, and expats as well. And each is building the knowledge from the other. And even if they have that knowledge on the technical side, I think applying it on the ground is still the main challenge. within the kingdom here, and probably maybe GCC as well. But overall, both are ready. It's just the execution and seeing the result is what's keeping, which will take time. It's my view. I mean.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Right, seeing as we have 3 business leaders with us today, an interesting question has come in from Haslim Hammam. Is there any extra service offered by FM in regards to the current pandemic situation? For example, ATP testing or COVID tests? If anyone wants to take this, I'm not sure if any of your firms or any firms that you're aware of are doing things there. I'm sure they're testing their staff, but I don't know how much further it will go in terms of COVID testing. Abdullah, any thoughts on that?
I think Mohammed wants to answer.
Just a very brief answer. No, I mean, these kind of actions in terms of testing and all of that, that's really in here is left to the Ministry of Health or the people who really know the knowledge more. We wouldn't want to go into it from our side. However, what we have done through that is work closely with our clients on the sanitizing, disinfectant material, and all of that support that needed through the pandemic and until today. When you have a positive case in that facility, we come and do this disinfectant work or action within. But in terms of testing, I think to us at least, we wouldn't want to go into this.
Yeah, and I agree with you. That's something that needs to be managed by the health authority. I don't know if Abdullah or Gary have got any thoughts on that.
I agree with Mohammed.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah. Well, so no, sorry, Abdullah. I suppose from a service provider sort of point of view, not a technological type thing, and keeping the testing to one side with the Ministry of Health, etc., which is I think where we have to do, and we have to be led from there. Just disinfection, sterilization, getting the necessary certification to be able to do that. And when we see what RTA and people like this have done on the streets, sterilizing all of that, there's obviously qualifications and accreditations that are required to do this in the correct manner. It's not just a bottle of washing up liquid in a rag. It's a proper method. It's a proper chemical, proper certified by the authorities and then applied in the correct manner. So that's a service that we've offered from Serviu, very similar.
Thank you, Gary. Abdullah, have you got any thoughts on that one you would like to share with us?
I think the gentleman really answered the question really well. So.
Okay. Interesting questions come in from Shadi Khatib. He wants to know, are there any immediate actions with the HVAC systems to avoid spreading the COVID-19 in any of the buildings that you guys are looking after? We'll start with, I don't know, Gary or Mohammed, if you've got any comments on that.
We've had some requests. Sure, go ahead, Gary, please.
No, I was just going to, obviously most of the equipment is there. It's ensuring that the correct filters are in place and that they're cleaned in a correct manner. We hear on the airlines about their HEPA filters and things like that. So I think it's just making sure that they're maintained properly, proper PPMs are done. Be careful, obviously, with cross-contamination, with things like that. And just basically the equipment needs to do what the equipment was designed to do. And it needs to be looked after the way that the OEMs obviously are giving us the guidelines for that. Yeah.
Thank you, Gary. Mohammed?
I second to Gary, exactly. And during the past 3 months, 4 months, we've seen a lot of new products come into the market of, applying some kind of material into the duct system to kind of exhaust cleaner air into the workspace. But has it been tested or not? No, and most of the clients are okay with what Gary was saying until, things move on or some things have been applied and tried. But I think all you can do is what Gary has spoken.
Yeah. Okay. I know none of us are specialized in BIM specifically, but we've actually got a very interesting question that's come in. And I think Abdullah is laughing because he knows I'm going to ask him this question. It's coming over to you, Abdullah. Have you seen it? You've probably seen it. So basically, in summary, how is BIM being used in UAE facilities? Are the companies taking this, or is it just beginning to be implemented? And this is coming from Benazir Castillo, and I hope I've pronounced that. If not, apologies if I pronounced that incorrectly. Abdullah.
Well, I have to be a little bit diplomatic when answering this question, given the situation where we are today. But I think BIM, whether it's being used in UAE or not, yes, it is being used. In fact, it's mandated by Dubai municipality to be used for services clash, but not, for the next. I think there are levels of BIM that you have to have within the building. So BIM 300 is what is mandated by the Dubai municipality to be used in projects. Now, the golden question, which is, using BIM in facilities management operations. And I will give you my radical opinion, I would call it, that, unfortunately, FM professionals or FM, the technical team on the ground, they're not, it's not part of their duties or day-to-day activities to go back and look at drawings. They go, they familiarize themselves with the site, and they immediately go. Now, this doesn't mean that this is the right practice, but this is the current practice today. And they need to quickly run and go to the site and attend the problem. So they don't go and refer to drawings. The only time they refer to drawings if the matter is very complicated. Now, using them, is it a good thing? Yes, it is a good thing, but it's very expensive. And it's also the integration of them with the CAFM system is another challenge that exists today. So before even talking about whether it's being used or not, there are challenges that when it comes to the people who are, who deliver the services, because they're not used to drawings. The quality of the as-built drawings that exist today are, sorry, but they're rubbish. So whatever you use to develop your BIM is not going to be accurate, so it's going to be a waste of money in this case. And of course, the integration and having a system that has thousands of drawings connected to your CAFM system and using the internet to connect it on your iPads makes it more difficult from a utilization perspective. And then eventually the FM technical team, they stop using it and they prefer to go to their old habits. So you have people's problem, you have a technology problem, and you have also an understanding problem of the FM market needs before even developing these technologies. And that takes me back to my earlier point about the utilization and the need for a proper understanding of the needs of an FM person before just deciding to develop technologies. My favorite example is my car. There's so many technologies I paid for in my car, but I haven't used them. And until today, 5 years later, I don't even know how to use it. So I haven't used it, and I don't even know how to use it. The same thing applies to your CAFM. They give you lots of features, but unfortunately, the end user doesn't know how to use it or does not even understand how to use it. And then you have to hire a consultant and pay additional money for something that you've already invested in.
Yeah. It's very interesting what you've said. I think that applies pretty much to all technologies. When you are buying that car, if you had someone to sit you down and actually show you, not as opposed to reading through the manual, show you what each of those technologies do, you probably would end up using it. It's just that kind of interface, so person to person, to get them to understand its potential. Thank you very much, Abdullah. Is there anyone else who would like to comment on BIM? Yes,
I'd just like to, not on the BIM issue, on the point when you mentioned the question that was referred on the companies and FM managers. When I mentioned that, not to say that we do get some RFPs that mandate the FM company coming in to have a CAFM system. And how many years have you been operating with that? But that's a very minority of companies. More of the large, multinational companies in Saudi. So it is there, but on a very, very minimum thing with the companies that are way advanced and can afford that system and apply it already on their ground. So it's not that it's absolutely new, but it's very, distinct.
Yeah, it's creeping in there. I mean, and also, that CAFM requirement is also normally quite vague. You know, it's just probably there just to see if the company's got the use of technology or the capability of technology, but it's not really detailed in terms of what the client is looking for. We've had quite a few questions, guys, come in asking pretty much the same question. And, you know, the godfather of FM, Mr. Stan Mitchell, has summarized it very nicely. As you all know, Stan is going to be joining us for the last panel session today. But his question is, what does the panel think are the opportunities for today's tech to support the fight against the spread of COVID in the workplace? And if I can start off by asking you, please, Gary.
Okay. I think maybe we've touched on some of the points already. It's all about using the technology to reduce the interaction, especially with public, trying to predict or to repair things that are faulty without actually having to go there. So we can all talk about robots and this, that, and the other, but I think it's trying to use that equipment and that technology to try and understand what it is. Like I say, just to stop people actually, you know, going out there and exposing themselves to what the risk is at the moment. So you know, less touching, less interaction should obviously reduce the risk. So using the technology that's available to us is definitely something we should be pushing forward.
Yes, thank you, Gary. Abdullah, any comments on that?
You know, like Gary said, less interaction and using more technology will reduce the need to be in the office and or confined spaces. So this means that you'll have less interaction between people, and then you reduce the chances of spreading the virus across people.
Yeah, you know, I mean, and the funny thing is, we've actually had those technologies in place before the COVID-19 pandemic. So, you know, things like touchless technologies have actually been around for a while. And interestingly enough, a lot of those technologies are also to assist with the services particularly for people of determination. And they've been around for some time. And I think they're coming into the limelight now more as general use because of obviously the current situation. Mohanad, any thoughts from your end?
I think this COVID issue really comes back to each interpersonal opinion. Yes, there were some exact guidelines, clear guidelines by the authorities in how to come back to work and how to you know, what actions you take and what precautions you take. However, what they do in the office is totally sometimes is different to what they do out of the office. So it's an education to each employee, and it's a decision from his side. Yes, coming into the office, you have to do A, B, and C. However, outside of the office, the virus is still there, whether he was in the office or outside the office. So you just do your best in the social distancing, the masks, and hopefully, you know, things will be reduced. But in terms of technologies, I can't think of any really that would that could help prevent this virus.
Just bear with me, sorry, because people are just sending in chats and messages, and I'll lose the question that I wanted to ask. There's an interesting question here. It's a little bit left field, not quite on the subject that we're talking about, but I think it's relevant. Ahmad Hassan wants to know, why don't we accept civil or architectural engineers in FM companies, even though they've had experience in this field? I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
We're looking for them.
We do.
They're a very rare
ideal ones.
They're a rare commodity as far as I was concerned. I'm not sure which companies he's referring to. I mean, the ones that I've worked with in FM are always keen to have civil engineers and architects.
I mean, most definitely it's a requirement actually of your license in Dubai, especially to have a civil engineer assigned for the civil work. So definitely something that's part of the day-to-day life and part of every company that has a license in the UAE. So
yeah, I'm not sure where he's tuning in from, but yeah, it is a requirement. Abdullah, Mohanad, have you guys got any thoughts on that?
I'm an architect myself, and they were always saying architects know something about everything, while engineers know everything about something. So they all complement each other. But definitely, I mean, I personally look for engineers or architects in this, because they have a full view of the overall design elements in the building.
Yeah. Thank you, Mohanad. Abdullah, would you like to add anything?
No, I agree with the gentleman. The only thing I would add, which is not related to the question, if I may, Sarah, here, is that
Yes, please
I have
do.
I have a deep concern that, after a year or so, we come back to similar conferences and we see that the adoption of technology is not as we thought it's going to be. It's easy to talk about technology adoption. It's easy to put in theories, but when it comes to implementation, there are so many barriers that needs to be addressed. So we have to take this seriously as FM leaders in the market. I know that many of the decisions are delayed because of finance issues and because the client doesn't need things or because of client restrictions. But then FM leaders need to take that one step extra and differentiate themselves. There was a question about how companies will deal with the margins being shrunk and how do you use technology to improve your margins. I guess the margins can be improved by reducing the manpower that you have today and reducing your cost basically and the need to travel. FM business, as you know, is a manpower based kind of business that depends on people, and of course the associated cost with people and traveling and all this huge. So anything that minimizes that cost will improve the margins. And of course, if you use technology, you can come up with new services and be a pioneer. Now people talk about energy management. At one point people were talking about escrow companies, but I think this has died down in FM, unfortunately. But then if you talk about technology, there are life cycle analysis that needs to be done using artificial intelligence. Although people talk about it a lot, but there's no proper understanding when it comes to from an FM perspective. It's very much controlled learning more than anything else. It's not a real artificial intelligence. It's just algorithms being inputted into a brain or a system that generates prediction. So it's too early for it, but at least there should be some kind of investment and a coordination between facility management companies and the IT companies.
Thank you very much. Thanks for summarizing that. Actually, I was going to go around the panel and ask you to summarize your points. You've done that so eloquently. Thank you very much, Abdullah. If I can ask Gary just to do the same in summary, because we're going to round off in a couple of minutes.
I think it is almost the end is very much like the beginning. It's utilizing the technology that's available. It's trying to reduce manpower, reduce the interaction. But saying that, as Abdullah pointed out earlier, it's making sure we give people the instructions and the ability to use what we've got. Otherwise, you end up with the car not using anything but maybe the headlamps. So it's making sure we train them, making sure that we continue, obviously, to develop them and making use of exactly what we've got. So, it's there. We just need to interact with it more, integrate it and get using it.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much, Gary. Mohannad, your final comments, please.
Yes. A couple of years back, maybe 10 years, there was maybe one software that would be used and people were going to focus on that. We have a saying in Arabic that says, if you wanted to confuse him, give him options. Abdullah's laughing on this. But really, today you see a large number of softwares, large number of competition, where the end user, the facility manager or the facility company or the owner are too confused. They'll just say, let's wait until we see what comes up next year, just like the mobile phones. So this continuous fast speed of new systems coming into the market, while the human factor cannot absorb, each outcome, is confusing things. And when will it stop and when will it be fully adopted? That's the question that I keep thinking about. Maybe Abdullah or Gary have the same. So
no, it's a good point. It's a good point. Sorry, carry on.
No, that's it. Yeah, that's my personal opinion of things growing so fast, while humans as well have speed of a limited speed of catching up with that technology.
Yeah, that's very true. Thank you very much, Mohannad. Unfortunately, we have run out of time. A huge thank you to Gary, Mohannad, and Abdullah for their input today. It's very much appreciated, and I'm sure that the audience enjoyed this session as much as I did. We will be starting the second panel discussion in a few minutes. You've just got a long enough interval so that you can go ahead and grab that quick coffee I spoke about earlier. In the meantime, we're going to be playing a interval video. Please enjoy it, and we will be back in a little bit. Stay tuned.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Established in 2004 during the early days of the country's industrial boom, Ijada is now weaved into the UAE's real estate landscape. Driven by a deep commitment to deliver total community solutions for a wide range of real estate developments, we provide peace of mind, simplify lives, and build on success. Ijada, weaved into Dubai's real estate landscape since the early days of the city's industrial boom. Established in 2004, Ijada is driven by a deep commitment to deliver total community solutions for a wide range of real estate developments. Ijada's integrated facilities services solutions are delivered through Idama Facilities Management Solutions. From core engineering services to a range of soft services, Idama offers functioning homes and seamless business environments. Ijada identifies, designs and delivers integrated real estate asset management solutions. Ijada's end-to-end security solutions are provided by Arkan Security Management, one of the UAE's leading security solutions providers. Arkan aims to create the safest environment possible, served by qualified and experienced personnel and supported by advanced security solutions that are unrivaled in the market. Ijada is the region's first total community solutions provider. Ijada's unit services arm, Shabaka, delivers concierge solutions for businesses and homes, designed to simplify day-to-day operations and livelihoods. Through its business verticals, Ijada's promise is to run communities that are rewarding to all its stakeholders. Providing peace of mind, simplifying lives, and building on successes is a motto that Ijada lives by in ensuring the sustainability and continuity of communities. Safety, comfort, and convenience of community users, leading to loyal tenants and investors for developers and landlords. And shares the vision and objectives of tenants, property owners, developers, national authorities and individual businesses, and is focused on creating success for its customers and partners through its energy, commitment and dedication to deliver superior service and long-term relationships.
Hello, welcome back. Apologies for that. I got caught off guard. I was enjoying the video. I think it cut off short. Anyway, welcome back. I hope you enjoyed that video and managed to grab that coffee. Let's get started on the next panel discussion, where we're going to be talking robots and how the use of robots changed the way traditional FM works. Please allow me to introduce you to the next team of expert panelists who will be indulging us with their thoughts on this very contemporary subject. So first up, we have Tariq Nizamuddin. Tariq is Ijada's Senior Executive Director for the Commercial Division and looks after business development and marketing. Tariq is a senior asset management professional with over 23 years experience in senior positions within global corporations, both in the public and private sectors. He has a BA in business administration and also an MBA. He's a certified facility manager, certified contracts manager and administrator, chartered human resource consultant and certified project management professional. Mouthful. Thank you for that, Tariq. You're welcome, and it's great to have you with us today.
Thank you very much, Sarah. Good afternoon. I feel lucky that I'm here the three beautiful ladies. Thank you very much.
I was going to say, yes, you've got the good end of the bargain here, Tariq. You're amongst the ladies this afternoon.
Thank you very much. I'm looking forward for a discussion.
Great, thanks, Tariq. Our next panelist is Javeria Ejaz. She is the ICT director for Farnec, an accomplished IT specialist with a strong software development history on mobile solutions, and is a technical architect which pioneered Farnec's smart FM solutions. Javeria is passionate promoter for the Internet of Things and is using this passion for finding creative solutions for Farnec. Following the dream and mission of Farnec, she focuses on shifting the trend from conventional to smart FM that empowers buildings to be intelligent, durable, and sustainable. Very warm welcome, Javeria, and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you very much, Sarah, for inviting. Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon. Thanks, Javeria. Final panelist for today who popped in earlier to say hello was Andrea. So Andrea Deutschbein is the director for FM soft services at the Imar Malls Group. Andrea is a facility manager with over 22 years of experience and is a specialist in managing major soft FM operations, such as the Doha International Airport, and also, as you all know, here in Dubai, the largest shopping center in the world, the Dubai Mall. Andrea is a bachelor in chemistry and is an IFMA certified SFP and CFM. Hello, Andrea, and welcome to you.
Hello, good afternoon, and thank you for having me.
Thanks, Andrea. Right, now that we've all been introduced, let's get cracking into the main discussion point, which is evaluating the rise of robots. How does the use of robots change the way we do traditional FM and how it works? So let's start off with you, Tariq, seeing as you're a minority in the group. It's in this case, it's gentlemen first.
Thank you, sir. First, I would like to mention that usually when you mention robot, people will automatically have the think of the Hollywood imagination about the robot, and you automatically think of Iron Man and Star Wars. So let's forget the robot that we see in movies. Let's forget Will Smith running after the robot, and understand what we mean with robots in reality and in FM. Let's go back in a little bit of the history of robots. Robots started with the industrial sector. Factories started using robots long time ago. The first prototype industrial robots were deployed in GM General Motors facilities as early as 1961. And today, robots play a major role in the industrial applications, including welding, painting, assembly lines, pick and place of printed circuit boards, packaging, labeling, unit. Healthcare also will reach advanced stages in robots over the past 15 years, mainly in surgeries. Recently, last week, I saw a documentary about the first implementation of robots in Sheikh Ahmed Hospital in Abu Dhabi of a Saha facility. When it comes to FM, we have two types of applications. One of them is which is used in general in the office, in the establishment, in business in general, which is the robotic process automation, which is currently, as an example, in Ijada, we are using the robotic process automation. We are implementing it in procurement, finance, and HR, which is help in reshaping the intelligent process and driving digital transformation. But today, let's focus on the implementation of robot in operation of FM. As you know, that our industry is manpower driven, and robots, we believe that robots are the future or play a big role in the future of industry. Robots will enhance productivity, will enhance the safety, and will reduce the dependency on labor. Robots will not replace manpower 100%. I believe that eventually it will maybe 30 to 40% of the labor will be replaced with robots, not more than that. For the implementation of robots, obviously today there are a lot of prototypes about cleaning that some of them are already implemented. I will not elaborate a lot. I will leave it to the subject matter expert, Andrea. I think we'll talk more about the cleaning. Let me take you through what we are doing in Ijada. Now we have worked with a renowned industry partner. We introduced the first robotic security patrolling robot. We have deployed it in Yasmol. Today it started it is in Global Village. We are using this technology to provide effective technological-based security service to our customers. The robots, the security robots autonomously patrol defined routes and are fitted with both PTZ and panoramic cameras. It can be linked to all existing VMS systems. It can operate independently or can be controlled through an operator via the control room. For our research and development, currently we're working with some partners in Southeast Asia and in Europe on a number of applications for robots. One of them is for quality inspection and assessment, which hopefully the robot will be able to scan the buildings and scan a room in about half of the time taken for manual inspection using high-tech cameras and laser scanners to pick up building defects like cracks and uneven surfaces. Other application is also using the robots in painting, where robots can paint large wall section without significant human input. Facade cleaning is a very interesting subject for us in Ijada because, you know, facade cleaning considered is a high-risk task and time-consuming. So there are companies around the globe that are trying to come up with the ideal solution that will cater the need of building, considering the designs that we see in with the creative ideas of the architects. I hate architects, by the way. So they come up with those crazy designs, and they expect us to clean them in.
So good job you weren't on the session with Mohanad then. He's an architect, but yeah. And our next session, Evie, she's also an architect, but yeah, carry on.
Also, during the pandemic, we've seen a lot of solutions provided by multiple service provider and companies for the disinfection. I've seen there is a UVD 360. I think they implemented their disinfection robot with Dubai Health Authority. I've seen a press release about it. And so it's using the UV disinfection. There are also other applications in Singapore, aside from conventional pressure spray nozzles. They have other technologies to ensure a wider and further spread of the disinfectant behind and over the hidden surfaces. So those are few examples of where we think that robots will be implemented in the near future to complement the services provided by human manpower.
Thank you very much, Tarek. It's interesting that you mentioned, you touched upon the fact that the sort of technology specific to robotics is actually really being utilized in areas where there are high risk factors for people at work. So you mentioned things like security, some aspects of the kind of the hard services and also soft services. So we'll come into that a little bit later on, but thank you very much for that. Let's bring Javiria into the conversation and get your thoughts on the topic, please.
So thank you very much, Sarah, to give me the opportunity. I mean, when we look into technology in FM, most of the efficiencies we see are driven from energy, where smart buildings reduces energy costs. Maintenance are taking IoT not only to monitor and control your remote asset, making facilities and assets more sustainable. But here, when we look into automation and robotics, we saw most of the business cases coming from cleaning and security, because obviously it brings not only increasing efficiencies through automation of repetitive and manual tasks, eliminating those human errors and improving productivity. But more interestingly, the advancement showed that how robots, they can perform rather difficult and dangerous jobs, which has to be done under high pressure and temperature, like cleaning on height, or drones performing roof inspections or duct inspection. For security as well, again, as Tariq also said, that yes, how robotics are becoming a part of patrolling. So again, when they get along with AI and robotics, not only doing patrolling, but also with AI, look for suspicious activity and sending alert to back to the control room. This is where the value addition becomes very, very interesting. At the same time, so this value addition is really when we put robotics in those jobs which humans cannot do, or humans are in danger to do. And this is where the safety element comes, and we find a real value addition. Another aspect that I look into robotics comes from when robotics not only do their automation, not only do the difficult job, but along with the process over time, it brings some key statistics and behavior for the process, which is not only increasing productivity or or improving the facility image, but it is also predicting facility patterns. So you are not only knowing that the job is done, you will know that your job is very well done, which is consistent and automatic. And here, in contrary, when you look at the manual janitorial service, it's difficult to bring the proof. So the devices can bring the proof with its own data. Hence, the FM process become more standardized when the robotics come into the picture to standardize your processes, which is not only automation, but also standardization.
Okay. Very good points. Thank you so much for sharing that, Javiria. Let's bring Andrea into the conversation. Get your thoughts, please.
Yeah, so as Tariq and as well Javiria already said, there are a lot of application in FM already with autonomous machine or robot. And if I go specific for soft FM, I don't see it only in cleaning. Soft FM is waste management, is landscaping, is pest control, and there are already robots on the place being used here in the UAE for segregation the waste, for example. As Tariq said, there are robots in place for disinfection or for the cleaning itself, for high-level cleaning, tank cleaning, swimming pool cleaning as well, many years. This is not actually new. And yes, there's a lot of application to be in the market. However, in order to evaluate, you always have to consider the facility itself. So for which facility is it used? What is the design of the facility? What is the occupancy of the facility? What is the size of the facility? Because this has a lot of impact on the machine or the robot to be selected. Yeah. So
yeah.
If I, for example, just a very small example, if I go for a robot vacuum cleaner, which is in place, and it's not just something new. If I use it in a small office, no doubt should be. Yeah, so you use the small vacuum robot, he's running around the office, and at the same time, the cleaner can concentrate on the surfaces and clean there. So you need just one cleaner for an entire office. Can I use the same robot for my carpets in the mall, in the common area, for example? Absolutely not, because it's too big. So I would need so many vacuum cleaner, because I have only a small window for the cleaning itself. So this requires then again storage place. So you have to evaluate. It's not just the investment for the robot itself. It's also the investment or the cost for the for storage, for charging, whatever it comes on this. So this evaluation has to be done very careful. If I have anything, a robot where I can avoid any risk and danger for a cleaner, for a human being, absolute. I will not only look for the financial part, because you can never pay a life for a human being. So if I have the opportunity to use an automatic machine or a robot in a confined space, for example, I will always prefer to use this.
Yeah.
So.
No, it's great points, and it's something that all three of you have touched upon. You know, that kind of safety aspect. Tariq, just coming back to you, I know you spoke about some of the innovations that you've implemented in Ijada. Can you tell us what, if any, or what the specific ones are that you really feel are working very, very well in comparison to others?
The current implementation is limited to the security, which is doing very well. As I said, it's complementing the Vanguard services. That you have 24/7 coverage. It eliminates human error. It has, as Javira mentioned, it has also other capabilities such as face recognition. It has two-way communication with the public if required. So this is the security robot is a straightforward, successful solution. There is a question asked by Hemant about the availability of manpower in GCC. It's a very valid point, and I think this is one of the main challenges of the cleaning robot, because we would like to think that manpower cost in GCC is low, which is something that I disagree with. We are not. Things have changed in the industry. Today we have minimum wages. We have a lot of welfare requirements before the pandemic and post-pandemic. So the cost of manpower is becoming very high, and it is not. And trust me, I have 11,000 today. I have 11,000 employees, and management of this large number of manpower is a big headache. And the robot is the future for this. Again, it will not replace manpower. It will complement, and it will take 25, 30, maximum 40% of the manpower. This is on the long term.
Thank you, Tariq. I'm glad you've picked up on some of the comments that are coming through. Again, for the audience, the guys that are listening in, please feel free to interact with us using the chat option there on your screen. We will try and answer as many questions and comments as possible. Let's bring Javiria back in. I mean, Tariq just spoke about, the cost aspect. From your experience, what are the obstacles facing FM firms when using more robots? I mean, is it purely cost, or is it maybe lack of awareness?
So, Sarah, what I believe is a combination of different factors. I mean, we know today's market is very competitive and fragile, and industry is under more pricing pressure than ever. I believe it is not only worthwhile but vital that we as FM adopt and integrate these solutions in our service delivery model, because this helps us to make ourselves differentiate, competitive, to provide more reliable and efficient service. As we already spoke, how the automation can bring more productivity and consistency in the service delivery. But what we cannot ignore is automation comes at a cost. The cost is not only for buying a robotics, but all the factors around it. So as Andrea said also, that there is a logistic cost, there is operational cost, implementation cost. So all costs are somehow at some point in time, they blow up the whole cost of technology. And this is where it made these solutions make it financially very unattractive to automate certain jobs, even if it is imaginable from scientific point of view. as we heard our industry leaders, they already embrace how technology can make FM innovative. But at the same we look for procurement models which make adoption more accessible and affordable, like leasing model, reducing financial risk, which is involved in large capex, which is actually a major barrier for technology adoption. Another point which is very, very important is educating the stakeholder. So it's not about the higher management, it starts from the ground to the higher management, where all the stakeholders needs to be educated about how this investment can bring benefit and efficiencies in the whole process. We need to share with them that how robotics can bring safety for, so obviously those jobs which bring the risk of injury to humans. This is where robots can be very interesting to use. The speed and productivity bring a lot of improvement in our SLAs. The consistency which brings with automation, the perfection that robots bring. Then one of another point which I believe we really as Farnic also believe in is the training and the response plan. So it's not about only putting the technology and implementing it and making the use of it, but we need to make sure that all the stakeholders which are interacting with that technology or getting the output of the technology are properly trained. And there is a response plan attached to all the robotics and the AI technology. One more point I would like to also highlight here is that it is understandable for the industry has experienced significant challenges in delivering successful innovation. So even with the simple floor cleaning robot or a scrubbing robot, advancement came that the navigation system became more sophisticated. Still, there is a certain amount of skepticism when it comes to technology adoption. Therefore, we need to work and collaborate with trusted partner, the partner who understand our industry, so that they develop the right innovation strategies for us, and they support us wider in our operational and cultural challenges, changes that we would encounter, which is very critical in delivering the innovation and real commercial projects.
Yeah, no, I mean, you've summed it up perfectly. It actually brought me very nicely into what I wanted to ask Andrea. I mean, basically, we've spoken about robots. A lot of the time, the kind of novelty wears off after the new technology's been introduced, but can they really do the job better or even just as well as another human being? Andrea, can I bring you back into the conversation? I wanted to ask you, do you think that cleaning robots will be the new norm? Or do you think they'll be adopted in certain sectors, for example, the healthcare sectors? And if it's viable in hard services, but I'll come to that point and have a discussion separately with the panelists on hard service. If you can just talk to me about the soft service element, please.
Yeah, so no, I don't think it will be the new norm, but I can see an increase on using robots and autonomous machines. So this for sure. As I said in the beginning, it always depends on the task that needs to be performed, and there are specific tasks, but as well cleaning the common area with with a robot scrubbing machine. Of course, it's something we can consider for the future and should be considered for the future. And it depends again on the size of the facility. So if you have just 1,000 square meter you have to select the right machine, of course, as usual. If it's a robot or not a robot, it's still the selection of the correct machine. But for example, escalator cleaning machine, if it's a robot or autonomous escalator cleaning machine, absolute makes sense to use them and use them more, because it takes you 3 cleaner away who are available for different tasks. So where the robot cleans the escalator, and it's a task of few hours. It's not just done in 20 minutes. Depends on the escalator itself. So absolute worth to think about it. And yes, in healthcare for sure. And as I said, there are several areas where robots make sense to use them and to use them more and better than a human being, because I don't put a human being in risk, for example, and in danger, as I said in the beginning, in a water tank cleaning, or even if it comes to a pest control task, fumigation, sanitation, disinfection. Absolutely, yes, but it will not be the new norm. And if I just think about a scrubbing machine, can it be? I'm not so sure, but can it do the same task when it comes to an emergency situation? Because it's easier to program a robot to use to clean an area every day, every time, the same task. But now all of a sudden I have a water pipe broken and I have a huge amount of water which is not programmed in the scrubbing machine. So how do I cope up with this? How can I use the machine then? And so you can never go only for robots and autonomous machine. You always have the normal scrubbing machines or the human being on site. And there was a question on the audience, if can a robot do all the FM tasks? No, I don't think so that they can do all the tasks, but they can help us a lot in being more efficient, more safe, and yeah, in some areas even also a better job. Yeah.
Thank you, Andrea. Actually, yeah, I wanted to refer to that question. Not sure if it's the same one I'm looking at. That's coming from Kieran Nitath. And they ask, robotics can be helpful for monitoring and operations in soft services, but when it comes to hard FM, only monitoring can be possible with current technologies. What do you think as a panel? Let's ask Tarek.
In general, we are talking about the implementation of technology. I agree to a certain extent that robots will not be able to perform the tasks of hard services. But when it comes to IoT in general, when it comes to machine learning, yes, the hard services will benefit more from big data analysis, machine learning, artificial intelligence is more helpful for the hard service. Soft service, definitely, and inspection, building inspection. The future of building inspection is about robots and drones. It's obvious you will have more capabilities and faster. Now we have implemented facade inspection for skyscrapers for a 70-story skyscraper in less than 24 hours. Using a DMU, usually it takes 2-3 weeks. So it is more focused on building inspection and soft service. I agree.
Thank you, Tarek. I mean, I wanted to ask you guys in terms of the sort of, again, I mentioned it before, the sort of novelty of robots, and it's very impressive. I'm having a look through the chats, and we've even had some people comment that they've been to a few different, assets and seen robots in use, and they were quite impressed by them. When you look at the novelty concept and the actual practicality in terms of how well they do the job, how would you weigh one against the other? I mean, do you think that they are actually an ideal solution? Andrea, you mentioned earlier on that there may be some cases, in emergency cases, that there's an issue that the robot is not actually programmed or designed to do. So the agility is not there. How can we kind of counteract that? Andrea?
Well, I'm not an expert in programming of robots, but
just want to get your thoughts on it.
At the moment, it's basically really that you have both possibilities available. So you still have the human in, you still have the conventional machine, and trying to get the technique better, that robots can be also programmed for emergency situation. So I think with the time it will happen. Of course, it is just now at the moment. I'm not aware that it's possible. So. But as we say, we have machine learning, and we have actually with Javeria, for example, done a project here in the mall with the smart washroom IoT, which is also a self-learning project, and it's helping us a lot, and nobody did believe this in the beginning. So this is always, you have to give it a shot, and you have to try it, and you have to be open for technology. And I think this is the main message there when it comes to automatic IoT, robot, autonomic.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We've got to be open to technology. I like that phrase. Javeri, I wanted to ask you from a kind of client's perspective. Ultimately, FM companies, we work in collaboration with our clients. What have you kind of seen? I'm going to ask also the same question to Tariq, but from their perspective, are they quite keen to implement the robotics in terms of technology, in terms of the service delivery? Are they keen to work with service developers and basically showcasing the robots in their assets?
Indeed. I mean, it's a very interesting point because that shows how the industry leaders, as I mentioned before, has already understood and embraced the technology. So, yeah, luckily I'm working with my clients who really embrace the technology, like Andrea, when we worked on Smart Washroom together. So when it comes to robotics, I mean, we are not only talking about physical robotics, but we are also talking about the RPA, which is process automation, robotic process automation. And here you're talking about one of the point which is raised by somebody in the public chat, that whether all the jobs can be replaced by robots. No, it is not, because robots have the limited engineering, which becomes improved with the touch of machine learning and artificial intelligence. But that is to a certain extent. But we have our trust in technology as it has been advancing over the years of time. Now, we also understand that, when we started CAFM many years back, it has been basic. But now when we look at CAFM is completely integrated, can be completely integrated with BIM, with IoT, with smart watches, whatnot. So therefore, the advancements come with the time. Robotics can do precise, autonomous, consistent job for you, and with the flavor of AI and ML, they become brilliant. But there is always the human element that they can do. So as Andrea gave an example of the scrubbing, the elevator clean. So again, these are the specific jobs where robotics can do the job, but not where we can fit robotics in every job where human analytics or let's say AI is required.
Okay, thank you very much. Tariq, what are your thoughts on that, the kind of collab between clients?
Well, it depends on the client, Sarah. Some clients are open to these ideas. Some clients are they prefer the traditional approach. They tell you, I need 10 cleaners, 2 supervisors, 1 team leader. But in general, if you have an output specification or performance-based contract, you will be able to have this optimization by implementing the robot. Some clients we have started seeing recently a lot of RFPs, mainly I'm talking about big clients, and where they request, they call it value-added services. What technologies can you offer? Whether it is robots, smart washrooms, any technologies, they are working on it and consider it as a part of the technical evaluation of the bidder. And you have all the big players in the market. We are competing in introducing technology and added value services to our clients through the implementation of technologies, whether it is to enhance the performance, cost optimization, and sometimes to energy saving and utilities saving. But at the end of the day, it depends on the client. Some clients are open for the ideas. Don't forget that it's considered a trial period. Some clients are open to take the risk. Some clients prefer to play it safe and go with the traditional model, which is based on. Andrea, I think with her service provider, and she is one of the today supporting the industry she's very open to ideas. Whenever I see a new vendor in the market, they come, or the company, they come and tell us that we have proposed this to Andrea in the market. Rita is doing a great project with her also. So we need this type of clients. We need clients like Andrea that are open to new ideas, so that the industry can move forward.
Absolutely. Good plug for you there, Andrea, which is one of the reasons we had you on for today's panel. No, 100%. And, you know, like you said, we've got to keep an open mind to that. If only more of the clients had that way of thinking. Thank you very much, Tariq. This brings us to the end of the session. Sincere thank you to you all, Tariq, Javiria, and Andrea. Also, thank you to the participants and the attendees for dropping in your messages. It was definitely a riveting discussion, and thanks again for sharing your insights. Okay, guys, you know the drill. It's now time for another short video interval. Please take the opportunity to grab another coffee or use the bathroom, only if you're very quick, and we will see you on the other side. Thank you, guys. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Gary Reeder, the General Manager of Servview Facilities Management. I'm proud to say that this year we've achieved many multiple milestones with regards to our technological integration and also the expansion of our business in the region. Our future plans in the pipeline include venturing into new business sectors and expanding within the Middle East region and beyond.
Hello, welcome back. I do beg your pardon. I'm not sure actually if we're on or if you guys are still watching the video. I'm assuming we're back on because I can hear myself. So welcome back. I'd like to welcome any of the late joiners to the conference. We've already had two very extremely interesting discussions, and we're going to round up today with our third, talking about the future of FM. Now, joining me on this panel is another team of industry veterans and experts, and just let me take a quick moment to introduce them. So first up, it is the legend himself, Mr. Stan Mitchell, who is the CEO of Key Facilities Management, which is the longest established true facilities management business in the UK, which operates over 4 continents and in 15 different countries. Stan is the chairman of the International Standards Organization Facilities Management Committee, as well as the chairman of the Facilities Management Committee for the British Standards Institute. He's also the UK representative for the European Committee for Standardization, European Facilities Management Standards. I'm not sure how that's going to be faring post-Brexit, Stan, but nevertheless, welcome. It's always good to see you.
Thank you, Sarah. My pleasure. Thank you for moderating this, and thanks to ITP Media Group for setting this up. Looking forward to the discussion. Brexit, I think, the impact on me, because I live in Scotland, will depend on the next Scottish independence vote we have for the UK. So just watch this space.
A bit of light humour there for our UK friends. Thanks very much, Stan. Our next panellist is Benjamin Wessendorf, who is the business head at Isnad. He's a seasoned FM services professional with more than a decade of experience spanning across Europe, Asia, and the Middle East. Prior to joining Isnad, Benjamin worked and served in a number of senior roles with Dussmann Service International. He then became the head of international cleaning services while working in Germany before he came over to the UAE in 2013, where he was appointed the regional head of cleaning services and responsible for operations in the UAE, Qatar, and Saudi Arabia. Welcome, Benjamin. It's a pleasure to have you join us today.
It's a pleasure indeed, Sarah. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Final panelist for today is Evie Bustanzi. She is the general manager of BFM, which is the facilities management arm of Bloom Properties. Evie has 20 plus years of industry experience and had previously worked as a consultant for Ernst & Young and the Mace Group. Evie is an EMBA graduate of the London Business School and is a BA in architecture. And she's currently president of 2,000 plus LBS alumni across the Middle East and is passionate about creating value through synergies. Good afternoon, Evie, and thanks for joining today's discussion.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's a great pleasure as always, Sarah. Looking forward.
Excellent. Thanks, Evie. Right, let's get straight into it. Now, the main talking point, guys, is what does the future hold for FM? Will it be less about people? If we can start off with Stan, please.
Okay, yes. Will it be less about people? I don't believe that's the case. What I do believe is that change is the norm. FM, I've always passionately believed, is all about people. Ultimately, everything that we do within a context of an FM role ends up being about people at the end of the process, whatever the process is. There are at least 5 different stakeholder groups of people that everybody in the FM world has a responsibility to understand, and every one of those, a minimum of 5 stakeholder groups, has a completely different agenda about what they want from FM. So one of the things that's very important is that we understand what those agendas are, because if we don't, the odds are we're not going to actually deliver to the satisfaction of those different groups. The second part of your question was really about, is there going to be less labour intensive? I think when we think about the technology that's around today, the IoT, the AI, the machine learning, that will obviously take away some of perhaps the more mundane and repetitive tasks that might be involved in FM. But as we introduce those technologies, it will require different skills and different competencies that perhaps some of us don't have today. So I don't necessarily see that there will be less labour-intensive market. I think there will be a different labour-intensive market. And the reference I would give about that is if you look back to the Industrial Revolution in the 18th century, when we invented the steam engine, when that massive change took place in how everything was done in commerce and industry. It didn't lose any of the people, but it had to re-engineer what those people did. And those people had to reskill and learn new competency in order to ensure that mechanization, as it was then, was properly utilized and delivered for the organizations that it served. And my last comment around that would be at the recent World Economic Forum, where the great and the good of commerce and industry and government get together to discuss what the future holds and how economies need to realign themselves. There was comments made that about 50% of the jobs that we do today in 5-10 years' time won't exist because of the influence of technologies. But so that would indicate, will there be less labour-intensive market within FM as well as everywhere else? Yes, there probably will from that perspective. But the other comment that was made at that World Economic Forum was our children and our grandchildren that are going to be educated and come out of that education process into the workplace, they'll be doing jobs that haven't been invented yet, because the technologies will move those skills and those competencies into completely new areas of how FM will deliver what it delivers. So I don't believe there'll be less labour. I think the labour that exists will have to re-educate itself, retrain itself, and refocus on how FM is going to be delivered. And given that today we have the potential of the autonomous building, it's then all about, so buildings can't run themselves. We need to do it for them. But how we do that and how we add value, I think, will completely change.
Excellent points. Thank you very much, Stan. Let's bring Benjamin into the discussion. Your thoughts, please, Benjamin.
Yes, thank you, Sarah. So I agree with Stan in general. I do think that jobs and roles are going to change, but then on the other side, with companies having to adapt to megatrends as such, and I think talking about megatrends, there are quite a few, but the technological breakthrough is the one which is the most influential to the FM market. So talking about robotic, AI, and IoT. So this does accelerate kind of the change in the industry, and yes, it will impact it. But as Stan said correctly, it will be just a change to a different way. So it is less labor intensive as such, but if it means that less people are being on the job is a different question. So yeah, so in general, for the situation right now, if clients are relooking at the moment, they have to relook on their scopes to drive costs down. And these are kind of new requirements which arise from the pandemic situation, as well as also certain external or economic factors. And that moves and accelerates the transformation of FM providers towards more technology. Now, however, in the UAE and in general, as Stan said, it is still, and it will remain for a longer time, a labor-driven market, also due to the lower manpower costs. And for us, from a service provider point at the moment, it often results in having the same manpower. So the requirements of our clients, they are asking for the same manpower, but partially for an increased scope due to adding disinfection now with the pandemic to it. So overall, yes, there will be a shift, and yes, it might be less work intense, but not necessarily labor intense.
Interesting. Thank you very much, Benjamin. Let's go over to Evie and get her insights on this one.
Well, I agree with my colleagues here, and I cannot imagine the FM industry being any less about people. I think it is absolutely about people. And I came across a very interesting quote recently, as we do during COVID times. And it says, it is by John Naisbitt, and he says, the most exciting breakthroughs of the 21st century will not occur because of technology, but because of an expanding concept of what it means to be human. And I find it very interesting. And looking around us on a day-to-day basis, everything that goes wrong around the world, in society, in the microcosm of our workplace, it is because we don't necessarily understand each other enough. We don't understand people enough. And we see unrest, and we see lack of engagement in the office like never before. And allow me to say that I believe even in the FM industry, the way we train people is not necessarily broad enough. I feel it is a bit standardized, it is a bit linear in its fashion. We talk a lot about resources, we talk a lot about input and output. We get a bit obsessed, dare I say, we get a bit obsessed about numbers and the overall optimization of resources, and it all becomes a bit too obsessive around how many seconds our technician will spend on the AC while they service it. So don't take me wrong, I love technology. I spent a big chunk of my education and my experience, my work experience in working on technology for the built environment. And I was a project manager as well. So I was managing projects. Efficiency is absolute king. And at the same time, where I work now with Bloom at BFM, we have implemented the most advanced, one of the most advanced IoT systems, and we operate through remote controls and energy optimization. We use the works, okay? So all I'm saying here is we need not lose sight from a bigger picture. And what is that? That our employees are not a commodity. They are just people, you know? And even if you have the most educated, the most competent, technically able person, unless they are motivated, they will never deliver that memorable service. Unless they are on the right mindset, you've lost them completely. They will just do a mediocre service, and this is it. So here comes all about the culture of the business. Here comes the purposeful company that motivates and inspires people to do better. Okay, and so on the one hand you have that technology and systems, and on the other hand you have the motivation of the human, and these two need to work together instead of fighting each other. And I think there is a bit of a clash at this point that probably we don't see much of, because probably we are decision makers and our people are affected by that. And I think it will be helpful if we see these two elements for what they are. Technology is a supporting tool, it's an enabler of performance, and human motivation is a multiplier of performance. And there are formulas out there, and my favorite one is that performance equals the ability of the human being with all their skills times that motivation. So it is a very powerful multiplier there, and it's very important. So yes, in short, I will finish now. In short, it is all about people, and it is about how we unlock that potential of people. That is my view.
Very interesting. Thanks for that, Evie. I mean, you made some very good points. Obviously, as a service industry, it is about people. Stan, talking about the labor intensivity, if you like. Now, where you've got some markets, I mean, obviously you're operating across the world, so I'm quite keen to get your thoughts on this. Where you've got some markets where labor is less expensive, and some other areas where the manpower is a lot more expensive, how does that offset against the technology that will be implemented in those regions?
Our experience is some of the people who adopt technology, and at the end of the day, technology is just a tool. End of story. So tools have been invented since the Stone Age. Today's technology is just another tool for us to use. And as a slight aside, I keep hearing people talking about smart buildings. There's no such thing as a smart building. There might be smart FM, and that's how we use those tools with the technologies that might be in buildings to interpret the needs of the people that we serve within those buildings. So coming back to your question, some of the most productive people, coming back to Evie's point, that we have experienced around the world is where labour is the cheapest, because those people have the hunger and very often the intelligence to go and open their minds as to how can we do this better? How can we better serve the customers that are sitting in the workplaces that we're responsible for managing? So I wouldn't say that it differs a great deal, but then I would say that sometimes it does, because when you are then trying to motivate in what might be considered the more developed parts of the world in terms of economies and education, etc., sometimes that's more difficult, because those people have a level of intelligence inverted commas, that comes typically with ego, inverted commas, that sometimes inhibits that learning and that redevelopment and that adoption of change and the tools and technologies that might come along. So swings and roundabouts is how I would describe it. We don't write off people because of where they come from or the markets that they work in or the economic circumstances in a particular country. We simply look for the people who want to embrace and learn. And if, as Evie quite rightly says, if you can motivate those people, you'll get a very high performer. And I can tell you within key facilities management, some of our top performers don't come from the UK or Central Europe. They come from some of these other countries where those people are smart enough to pick up the knowledge and experience that we can hopefully give them.
Excellent. Thank you so much for that, Stan. Before I go on to bring Benjamin back into the conversation, just want to let the audience know this is really your last opportunity, guys, to engage with the panel. Please feel free to use the chat option, send any messages, any comments, any questions that you have, and we will try and get through those before the time is up. Benjamin, coming back to you now, from your perspective as a specialist in soft services, what is the future? How does it look? Do you think there's going to be more of a move towards output-based contracts?
Yeah, well, Sarah, that's what I promote, and I did since I came here to the UAE in 2013. So what I see is we have here 3 models, right? One is a manpower driven approach, one is the output based or performance based, and then what I see a lot in the market is a hybrid of both. So you're getting certain minimum manpower requirements, and then you have, of course, KPIs you have to follow. So I believe going into this direction to bring people more and also to convince clients. There are 2 things from a provider side, and then talking about soft services. It's more the use of CAFM and modern ERP systems. So this can help us a lot. But then also when you're talking about an output-based or performance-based approach, you always have to have something to measure it against it, right? So this can be then even audits to measure the overall, let's say, the standard of the current performance, or even what we saw now, which I found interesting, the ATP, and I think we had it earlier in the chat as well. Somebody was asking for ATP, which originated, I believe, so far from the food industry and hospitality. So what we see, this can be another good tool which can then support the service supplier to show with a swap test, is a surface really cleaned the way it is agreed in the contract, or isn't it done? So there are certain things. And then what I feel output-based, it would be great, and I think it's on the agenda, but organizations such as MEFMA and ISSA to provide benchmarks in terms of productivity of staffing, which helps also suppliers and clients to understand how to get there to this performance-based approach, would help a lot, basically. So I think we are there, and as I said earlier, UAE is kind of most of the time in soft services in the hybrid stage, a bit of both, but I do believe that there's a transformation going on at the moment, and it's great to see it happening.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Sure.
I'm sorry, did I cut? I didn't mean to interrupt you. Sorry, carry on, Benjamin.
No, it was fine. Thank you. It's okay.
Thank you very much. Sorry, it might be a slight delay from my end. Thanks for that, Benjamin. Let's bring Evie back in terms of, I mean, obviously as a service provider, Evie, FM is generally viewed as a cost center where clients opt for a less expensive service offering. The pandemic has actually proved otherwise, because FM's been the first on the front line in many cases. From your perspective, how do you think the clients are going to perceive FM moving forward? Do you think they're going to still associate low-cost servings over the quality of services?
Well, in fact, during COVID, we saw customers behave in a different way, probably through different lens. And we had probably three categories of this behavior. I would say one was where the customer was absolutely not affected and committed to quality. Everything continued as normal. The second one is when they cut down a bit on a few services and they try to optimize a bit, but not much impact on the service. And the third one was when our customers, and there were not many of those, focused 100% on how to cut down on cost, no matter what. And we had cases where our contract was handed over in zero time to somebody who offered the 50% discount. Reasonable or not, it was the decision of the customer. And you will always have this range of approaches. So it comes down to what do you want to know, to be known as? Somebody who is the cheapest in the market and gives good prices? Do you want to be known as somebody who focuses on quality of service? Do you want to be known as an innovator? It's a choice of every company. So before and after COVID, I would say the range of approach is there. Now, what I understand that most FM companies are looking for is to become long-term partners of their customers, because this is where the value comes from for both sides. It's mutual. I invest in your business, you invest in your assets, and we move forward and we create long-term sustainable value. Now, on the other hand, you have the customer, and it's not just one person. My direct liaison, the direct liaison between my company and the customer side is one person probably that we deal with, that may be enlightened and may understand the value of the FM partner for the long-term value creation. But organizations are more complicated. They are machines that are complicated, whereby there is a strategy, there are controls, there are long decision-making processes. So you may never actually manage to deliver what you can deliver and what this direct contact is opening the door for. So what we can do there, so that we start to become more of partners, is to continue educating our customers. And I'm saying this in the best possible, with best intention, because there is that need to keep explaining things. Our customers are not experts in FM, we are.
Which is why they hire you. Which is why they hire you, right? That's the whole point, Absolutely. Sorry, carry on, Evie.
Okay, so this is one side of the story, and then there is the other side of the story, where there is a certain fact in business, which is, and it is based on 4 decades of analysis of data, that organizations, companies that have a solid purpose, and they are focused on creating the triple bottom line. It is focused on people, focused on the society and the environment, and focused on profit, of course, outperform their competitors by 3 to 6% year on year. And why do I say that? Because this is a by default reaction of both the employee, who feels they are part of a bigger purpose, And it is a by default reaction of a business as customers are more inclined to support a service provider who is serving a higher purpose and have this impact in the world and in their business and in their environment. So it really makes a difference, and that's not something I have noticed only. It is part of business analysis. So yes, we hope that customers will see us as long-term partners, and there is a bit of foundation there that we can base our strategy on, but also there is a lot of education that we need to continue doing all across.
Yeah, thank you. No, I couldn't agree with you more, Evie. I think, FM is all about establishing those relationships. It's a collaboration. And as you quite rightly mentioned, the longer you're in it with your so-called client or partner, if you like, the more you can invest in each other's business, which will bring that sustainability aspect, as you've mentioned. We've got a few questions coming in, guys. Now, considering that we are in the middle of a global pandemic, there's an interesting question regarding the future of FM for healthcare. So I'd like to bring maybe Benjamin to come in and answer this, because it's probably a little bit more focused on soft services. What do you think is the future for FM in terms of healthcare and hospitals? And that has come in from Naveed Khan. Benjamin, would you like to answer that one?
Yeah. All right. Okay. Sure. So yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a bright future in terms of FM. I mean, we see, and I think there are a lot of budgets coming out now to revamp also in other countries or in certain countries the whole healthcare system. So it gives an entirely new opportunity probably for our service provider to operate and also to implement great technologies. So I think that the healthcare market in general is a good opportunity to bring all those positive technologies into it. And I think and that is from a soft FM part, since perception has dramatically shifted to how important hygiene and cleaning is nowadays, it will allow all of us to dive into it and apply what we can offer.
Yeah, no, very good points. Thank you, Benjamin. Guys, we are pushing on a little bit, so I know that we are coming very close to the end of the session, but I'd like to have maybe some closing comments from each of you. If I can start off with you, Stan, if you could like to summarize and just close off for us, please.
Yes, we've talked quite a lot on this call about technology, but the challenges that we face in the introduction of technology is exactly the same as the challenges we faced 30 years ago in the introduction of FM as a concept. So it's just about change and constant change. But those are challenges that if we, as a community, if we meet those challenges in the right way, we will move FM upwards and onwards. And the current COVID pandemic, I'm a great believer in every negative there's a positive. So we all are having to live with this pandemic that's affecting everybody around the world. But for the FM community, this is a fantastic opportunity to change perceptions about who we are in this industry of ours, which is, to me, the most fascinating, challenging, frustrating business to be in. But we have a great opportunity to show real value that we can bring to organizations, hopefully more in a proactive manner, perhaps by using technology than a reactive manner. But the thing I would like to end on is a point that Evie just touched on about education. We need to be focused on people. And all of those different stakeholder communities, whether it's our clients, the people that work for us, the communities in which we operate, we constantly need to be educating and making people more aware of both what we do, because most people don't recognize what we actually do because we tend to be in the background, but the potential of what we can do at a strategic and tactical level about making places operate more efficiently and effectively, but keeping places safer as well for the communities, for our people, for our customers, whatever. So education, training, reskilling is all about what we need to be giving adequate attention to as we go forward from the situation we're in today.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for summarizing that so eloquently, Stan. Evie, over to you.
I think he didn't leave anything for us.
Yeah.
Really.
He never does. He never does, Evie.
He should never be the first one to speak. So.
Yeah, I thought the same.
Right, Benjamin, I will leave nothing
yes,
to
yes,
you now.
he ticked all the boxes.
Point, yeah.
I just
we'll bear that in mind next time.
Okay.
We'll bear that in mind next time.
So I will only just say that what I stressed on earlier, and Stan covered everything, but it is important that we read the vibes of our times and see what really matters to people, so that they care to be part of whatever we are aiming for. We have, most of us have thousands of employees. Are they really in it for themselves, for the company? What is in it for them there? Everybody has their own lives, and they have another mission in life, and they have a family back home. So are we doing enough to enable that unlocking of value for people? I think it's really important at this point, especially as we start to incorporate technology into everything. We shouldn't forget about the human touch. Absolutely not.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Evie. Over to you, Benjamin. Not sure there's anything left for you to add, but please.
Yeah, I of course agree with Effie and Stan fully, and I just want to add to it that which I think Effie earlier said. So yes, technology is a great tool for us. It will help us developing and also enable us to deal with the more complex requirements clients are having. But then on the other note, I think you said, Effie, earlier, the biggest fields of improvement are related to service quality and service culture and customer experience. So we have to exactly kind of balance all of those and not get blinded by robotics and smart solutions, etc. So that is my last word in this regard. And I think Stan and Effie both, they tick the rest of the boxes. So I do fully agree with what both of you said before. Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you very much, Benjamin. And thank you to all three of you. It's been, an absolute pleasure. Thank you very much, Stan, Benjamin, and Evie. A thrilling discussion on one of the most currently talked about FM topics. And thanks again for sharing your thoughts with us. Sadly, everyone, we've come to the end of the conference. It's truly been an absolute pleasure hosting today's event, and thank you to FM Middle East for inviting me to do so. I hope you've all enjoyed it as much as I have. Please be sure to follow FM Middle East websites and social media platforms for more on today's event, whereby the details will be published in due course. And on that note, I'd like to sincerely thank all the attendees and participants today for taking part in the online chat and questions and answers and sending through your comments. Of course, a very big thank you to all of our wonderful panelists for sharing their expertise and knowledge on such intriguing subjects. Finally, a big thank you to ITP and FM Middle East for launching their very first conference, which this year happens to be a virtual one. I'm sure many more will follow, inshallah. So with that, I would like to bid you all a very good rest of the day. Stay safe and well, and all the very best from me, and goodbye. Thank you, guys.
Thank
you.
Bye.